There is a lot at stake in this election, but the core question is still this: who is best placed to defend our economic and national security against Donald Trump?
Canada was meant to be the 51st state.
They should be the 51st state, really.
We don't need their lumber. We don't need their energy. We don't need anything. We certainly don't want their automobiles.
They're not viable as a country.
It would be 100% certain that they'd become a state.
On the one hand, Liberal leader Mark Carney. On the other, Conservative leader Pierre Poilievre. They both come from middle-class families, both raised in Alberta. Both of their respective parents were teachers. And the similarities, well, they pretty much end right there. Carney went on to study at Harvard on a scholarship, followed by a PhD in economics from Oxford. He worked in private financial markets before committing himself to senior roles in the public service. He served as the governor of the Bank of Canada, as the governor of the Bank of England. More recently, he's been the head of impact investing at Brookfield, the board chair of Bloomberg, and a UN special envoy on climate and finance. Fairly, he brings serious leadership and a wealth of experience, especially in managing crises. As the Bank of Canada governor, Carney helped navigate the Great Recession. And sure, there's been some debate about the exact role he played. So let's hear how the late Conservative Finance Minister Jim Flaherty described Carney's contributions at the time.
Governor Carney has been an invaluable support, first as my senior associate deputy minister at the Department of Finance, and then after we appointed him as governor. I appreciate the work he has done and the advice he has given to keep Canada's economy strong, protect Canadian jobs, and maintain the stability of our monetary system. I want to close by wishing Mark the best in his new role and thanking him again for his major contribution to Canada, Governor.
Later, as the Bank of England governor, Carney warned of the risk that Brexit posed to financial stability, and he helped Britain manage through it. Here's former British Conservative Finance Minister George Osborne on how he sees Mark Carney.
Whether you're the Prime Minister or the bank governor, you've got to get the economic policy right. And, Mark got that right for Britain at that time, and he's got a ton of experience and knowledge, and I'd argue he's probably the most experienced Canadian in the world at fixing economic problems.
Now, not for nothing, but Canadian Conservatives like Andrew Scheer, their former party leader and now Poilievre's House leader, they happily cheered Brexit on. Which brings me to Poilievre, his team, and his Reform Party brand of conservative politics. And yes, Poilievre became active in the Reform Party at the age of 16. He got involved as a Parliament Hill staffer for Social Conservative Alliance leader Stockwell Day at the age of 21. He was elected by the time he turned 25 and earned his BA from the University of Calgary at the age of 27 while serving as an MP. His experience outside of politics?
Now, unfortunately, we cannot find any evidence that he actually held what most of us would call a job.
Now that's actually a bit unfair, right? Because he's been in Parliament for the last 20 years, and I do think that politics is the most important way we can make a difference. The real question instead is, what have you done with the time you were in office? And it isn't at all clear what Poilievre has accomplished in those 20 years. His first visible effort was American-style freedom from unions advocacy. He then earned himself an attack dog reputation. He eventually became a minister in the Harper government, where his biggest accomplishment was tabling legislation that the Elections Commissioner of the day called deeply concerning. More recently, we have seen Poilievre's ostensible leadership in a real crisis, because as the world economy shut down overnight in the pandemic, Poilievre called for tax cuts and red tape reduction, and he castigated government programs that aim to help workers and small businesses survive.
Yes, we do believe that we need to lower taxes, eliminate regulatory red tape.
That doesn't exactly address COVID-19, though, in all fairness.
Actually, in fairness, it might not address it the way you want to address it. You might want to address it through big, fat government programs. We're conservatives, so we don't believe in that.
Not to be outdone by the interim Conservative leader Candace Bergen, Poilievre delivered donuts and coffee to the convoy, and he has repeatedly talked Canada down ever since, until it became unpopular. And I know what you're thinking, but no, Poilievre isn't Donald Trump. I mean, sure, they both attack the media, exert strict control, give nicknames to their opponents, tell us everything is broken. They're both ready to gut foreign aid. They both traffic in conspiracies of globalists and paint cities as dangerous hellscapes. Both their campaigns are run by MAGA supporters. Neither trusts or respects the judiciary, and they're both endorsed by Elon Musk. But look, they played very different characters on The Simpsons. His conservative Senate leader might have endorsed Trump in the past, sure. His shadow cabinet minister might want to take Canada out of the WHO and UN, okay. But I'm just partisan in the middle of an election, so don't take it from me. Here's how Conservative Premier Danielle Smith describes the alignment between Poilievre and Trump.
The perspective that Pierre would bring would be very much in sync with, I think, where the new direction in America.
Yes, you'll hear both Carney and Poilievre talk today about the need to stand strong, to fight back against tariffs, to protect Canadian workers and jobs, to build a strong economy. But in a moment of crisis, reciting slogans in front of a mirror every morning just is not enough. We need someone with credible experience managing crises. We deserve serious leadership.